The cowboy, with their rugged hats and dusty boots, stands tall as a symbol of the American West, capturing our imaginations in ways that movies and songs often depict. In the world of popular culture, these cowboys are like shooting stars, glamorous, mysterious, and daringly heroic. But let's peel back the layers and venture into the real Wild West of the 1880s, where life as a cowboy was a far cry from the silver screen. Being a cowboy was no walk in the park. It was more like a strenuous rodeo ride. These tough hombres had to muster up every ounce of physical strength just to get by. Their days were filled with relentless herding of cattle, tending to cantankerous horses, mending fences and ramshackle buildings, and enduring grueling cattle drives that felt like a never-ending journey. Yet, it wasn't just the physical toll that set them apart. Cowboys often rode solo, with only the vast expanse of the frontier for company. The loneliness was a shadow that followed them through the endless horizons. And let's not forget the pay, which wasn't exactly striking gold. These cowpokes earned just enough to keep beans on their plates and maybe a swig of whiskey in their flask. As they roamed from town to town, they didn't always receive the warmest of welcomes. People viewed them with a mix of suspicion and caution. The reputation of cowboys as rowdy, disorderly, and occasionally downright violent preceded them like a tumbleweed rolling in with the wind. But there's no denying that the sweat and toil of these cowboys had a profound impact on the American beef industry. In the 1880s, especially in the western states, beyond the mighty Mississippi River, their tireless work helped shape the nation's love affair with beef. From cattle ranches to dinner tables, the cowboy's legacy lives on in every succulent bite of a juicy steak. So, while the glamorous image of a cowboy in popular culture may glitter like fool's gold, it's essential to remember that their real-life journey was filled with grit, sweat, and a whole lot of dust on the trail to the American frontier. The first cowboys were Spanish vaqueros. Step back in time to the rugged and untamed landscapes of the American West, where the captivating history of cowboys unfolds like a thrilling saga. Before the iconic cowboy hat and the jingling spurs of the Wild West, there existed a breed of skilled horsemen known as the Spanish vaqueros. Our journey takes us far beyond the dusty trails of the 19th century, back to an era when the Texas plains echoed with the songs of these formidable cowhands. It all began when the Spanish, with their spirit of adventure and exploration, first set foot in the New World. They brought with them not only dreams of conquest, but also a unique way of life centered around cattle ranching. In the heart of what we now call Texas, the Spanish settlers established sprawling ranches, creating a patchwork of frontier communities where the land met the sky. Their arrival heralded the introduction of cattle to the region, a gift that would forever alter the course of history. From this point forward, the cowboy legend was born. By the year 1519, the Spanish ranchers had already recognized the need for skilled hands to manage their burgeoning herds. This is where the vaqueros, indigenous cowboys, emerged as the unsung heroes of the American West. With their mastery of horsemanship, their lightning-fast roping techniques, and their unparalleled herding skills, they became the backbone of the cattle industry. Imagine a sun-drenched Mexican hacienda, where vaqueros clad in rugged attire set out on horseback each day, weaving their way through the dense scrublands and vast grassy plains. Their lassos sliced through the air with precision, roping cattle with a finesse that seemed almost supernatural. Their ability to control the wildest of beasts showcased their deep connection with the land and the creatures that roamed it. These vaqueros were more than mere cowhands. They were the guardians of a way of life that would shape the destiny of an entire nation. Little did they know that their legacy would transcend time and space, finding new life in the American West of the 19th century. As the tides of history ebbed and flowed, the skills and traditions of the Spanish vaqueros found their way into the hearts and souls of a new generation of cowboys. The iconic image of the American cowboy astride a spirited stallion, twirling a lasso with the wind at their back, owes its existence to these pioneers of the saddle. The rise of the American cowboy came after the American Civil War. In the days of the American Civil War, when Texas ranchers left their land to fight for the Confederate cause, they didn't know what awaited them upon their return. These ranchers, tough as the Texas sun, had no idea that while they were away, something incredible was happening back home. When they finally returned to their beloved ranches, they were in for a big surprise. Their cows, it seemed, had been quite busy during their absence. These cows had multiplied like there was no tomorrow, and now, there were roughly 5 million of them wandering the Texan plains. Now, you might wonder why having 5 million cows was such a big deal. Well, my friends, it turned out to be a stroke of incredible luck for those ranchers. You see, up in the north, folks were hankering for beef. The Civil War had caused quite a stir, and it had used up most of the beef supply in the northern states. That's where our Texan ranchers saw their opportunity. With the demand for beef skyrocketing in the north, those ranchers needed a little extra help to manage their booming cattle business. So they did what any wise Texan would do. They hired some cowboys. These cowboys were the real deal, adopting the vaquero dress and way of life as they took on the task of wrangling those millions of cattle. Picture this, if you will, a dusty Texan landscape stretching as far as the eye can see, with cowboys on horseback, wide-brimmed hats shading their faces from the blazing sun, and their trusty lassos by their sides. It was a sight to behold. As the mid-19th century rolled on, things were changing all over the United States. Railroads were being built, crisscrossing the land like veins in a body. These steel tracks brought new possibilities to the West, making it more accessible than ever before. And where there's accessibility, there's opportunity. People from all walks of life saw the promise in these new territories. African Americans, Chinese railroad workers, and white settlers journeyed westward, leaving their homes in search of new beginnings. They came to ranch, to farm, and to mine in these wild, untamed lands. By the 1870s, something dark had happened on the plains. Bison, those mighty creatures that once roamed freely, were nearly wiped out. Why, you ask? Well, it was all for the sake of plowing the land to grow crops. Those vast herds of bison had to make way for fields of wheat and corn. It was progress, they said, but it came at a great cost. Amidst this changing landscape, cattle became the kingpin of the West, especially in Texas. The railroads played a pivotal role in this cattle boom. They meant that southern farmers could finally meet the insatiable demand for beef up north. Imagine those sleek, black locomotives chugging along, carrying precious cargo, the very essence of the West, cattle. Now, let's delve deeper into this wild and dusty world. Close your eyes and picture it. It's a sweltering Texas afternoon. The sun beats down, casting long shadows over the sprawling ranches. The ranchers, weathered by years of hard work, return home from a war they never thought they'd see. But their land, their beloved land, has transformed in their absence. As they ride through the fields on horseback, they can't believe their eyes. Cows, as far as they can see, graze peacefully. There's a feeling of awe and wonder. What started as a few cows has become a sea of bovines. It's as if the land itself had given birth to these creatures. Realizing the potential, the ranchers gathered under the Texan sky. They knew they had something special here. With beef in high demand up north, they decided to seize the opportunity. But they couldn't do it alone. They needed the best, the toughest, and the most fearless. They needed cowboys. Enter the cowboys, those legendary figures of the Wild West. They dressed the part, wearing wide-brimmed hats to shield themselves from the unforgiving sun. Their boots were well worn, and their leather chaps bore the marks of countless cattle drives. These were no ordinary ranch hands. These were the vaqueros of the Texan plains. The cowboys rode out, each one a master of the lasso. They could catch a stray calf with ease, their lassos spinning like a deadly dance. The cattle were rounded up, and the cowboys took charge of this massive operation. They weren't just herding cows, they were shaping the destiny of the West. As they drove the cattle north, they encountered challenges that tested their mettle. Dust storms would sweep across the plains, making it impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Thunderstorms would roll in, turning the trails into treacherous mud pits. But the cowboys pressed on, determined to deliver their precious cargo to the north. Meanwhile, the rest of the country was changing too. Railroads were spreading like wildfire, connecting the east and west in ways that had never been possible before. The iron tracks stretched across the land, cutting through mountains and spanning rivers. These tracks were the lifelines of a growing nation. With the railroads came new opportunities. People from all corners of the country, and even from overseas, flocked to the West. African Americans, seeking a chance at a better life, left the South in search of freedom and opportunity. Chinese immigrants, who had toiled on the railroad lines, saw a future in the West's vast expanses. White settlers, hungry for adventure and prosperity, staked their claims on uncharted territory. They built towns and communities in places where only wilderness had existed before. The West was no longer a frontier, it was a land of promise and possibility. And so, the West was transformed. The land of cowboys, cattle, and untamed wilderness became a land of settlement, agriculture, and economic opportunity. It was a time of change, a time of progress, and a time when the West was truly one. So, as you look out over the vast plains of Texas or travel along the iron tracks of a railroad, remember the history that shaped this land. Remember the ranchers. Thanks for tuning in to our video about Life for Cowboys in the 1880s American West. We hope you enjoyed learning about their adventurous lives on the frontier. Now it's your turn. We want to hear your thoughts. Did you find this video interesting? Do you have any questions or stories to share about cowboys? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on more fascinating content coming your way.